Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for joining my class today. My name is Ania. I can say that I am a mixed media artist. Okay, let's emphasize watercolor artist here because I love watercolors. But I mix and combine every kind of art supplies. And I'm also a surface pattern designer behind Mama Fabrics. You can find me on the Instagram. I get a lot of messages from my community asking how to paint loose florals with ease. I mean, how to, loosen up with watercolor florals. And I am here today to share all I know about this process and to share my approach. Remember, this is my approach, my workflow, my mindset. Hopefully you could, share my opinion and you could just pull everything you want most from this lesson and everything that will work for you when it comes to painting watercolor florals in a loose style, which I find very relaxing, and that's a great way, to boost your inner creative voice and your inner creativity in general. All right, so no worries. You don't really have to learn all the watercolor techniques. You only need to get started, to have great fun and to enjoy the process, because that's, my friend, the most important point of this whole class. Can't wait to start. Let's check what supplies we will need for today's lesson. So we won't need much. Watercolor paper, watercolor paints, watercolor brush, one will be enough, jar of water, paper towels, and some additional supplies. Alright, so what is this loose painting all about? Honestly, this is all about, losing up. Don't think about, other creatives' artworks. Don't think about, your skills. Don't think about if you are a professional artist or you're a hobbyist. It's all about letting go all the fears and uncertainty when it comes to your skills. Stop worrying about the final result. Just concentrate on the process and enjoy the process, because this is relaxing and this is fun. And please, please don't compare yourself and your art to other artists' art. This is not a competition, guys. Let creative juices flow and really trust your intuition. If you want to paint, green flower, just go for it. If you want to paint a pink flower, just go for it. If you want to change the color of the leaves, just go for it, right? Trust me, there is no way you would ruin your art piece. It's a matter of changing the mindset, it will only look different. And if you really, you can add twists and you can add other mediums on top of that. I will show it in a bonus part. And really, if you are totally not happy about what you've done, you can always restart the process and do it again. Don't put any pressure on yourself, because it will block you, and it will put you in a position where you will have a fear of screwing up and destroy the white, beautiful paper. In this lesson, you will learn, or you will master what you already know, two fundamental techniques when it comes to painting with watercolor. The first one is wet on wet technique, and the second one it's wet and dry. All right, so how to choose a reference object, or maybe it's not, necessary to use such a reference. I have two answers for that question. So the first one is, It's a great idea to find a reference. But here, please remember, do not force yourself to choose something that everybody else is painting at this moment, because sometimes we can notice that, especially on social media, there are several themes or subjects that are very trendy, and everyone is painting that subject. Please find something that really inspires you. To find your perfect reference flower, for example, you can go for a walk, or you can, find a florist. Sometimes there are florist shops where you can literally sit and take your sketchbook with you and make some sketches or paint something very quickly. So look around. Having a reference it's great, because while painting and looking at the object, you constantly build your inner library, your, let's say, the library that is in your head. And that is where the second answer for this question comes, because painting without reference, it's also a great exercise for you to pull out all these pictures that you have in your head library, and just go with the flow and paint what you have in your head and in your mind. Painting from reference really helps you to develop your creative muscle, right? Just like with your body muscles, right? You exercise, you get the results. There is no right or wrong. You can paint loose watercolor florals, whether with a reference in front of you or from your head library. Now it's time to put everything we've talked about into action. So grab your supplies and let's paint. I will provide some reference florals. Okay, so let's start painting. As I said, watercolor paints. I am using watercolor tubes. Watercolor brushes, I will be using 8 in exchange with number 6 round brushes. Paper towel and a jar of water. As you can see, my jar is very dirty. If you want to avoid that, just provide 2 separate jars for warm colors and for cold colors. Oh, and I'm using Canson paper, and this is hot pressed paper, watercolor paper. The first flower, this is cornflower. I love them so much. How to start? Simply observe for a few minutes. Try to find the simplest shapes that you see in this flower, and what I see is a line, other lines when it comes to stem, and tiny little leaves, which are also considered by me as lines. And here it depends on what angle you are looking at this flower. It can be a round shape or maybe oval and some kind of a little drop. And here you can see the corns. I'll be painting wet on dry. As I told you, you can use whatever color you want. And I'm here using ultramarine without any big thinking or analyzing anything. I will start from the corns and this oval, let's say, side view. I'm not concentrating on catching the exact botanical look of this flower. I'm just concentrating, on on talking to you guys, basically. First step was painting wet on dry. Wet paint on a dry paper. And now, as you can see, I have some wet spots, and I'm adding more saturated paint, and it's already wet on wet. So as you can see, I'm mixing two techniques. I'm not trying to paint these stems and these florals exactly as they are. I'm gonna just look at them and pull everything I want from these, put on the paper. So this was a side view, and now I will paint around flower. Wet on dry paper. As you can see, I've just simplified the shape. I press and lift my brush. Now adding more saturated paint in the middle of it. To emphasize the center of my cornflower, I will put some darker colors, and I will mix ultramarine with some kind of pink, just to have a more violet color. And for me, these are just little tiny lines. I'm putting some lines inside my flower. There is no much detail. This is only a general shape. Now let's paint the side look once again here. Also think about the composition that you want to achieve on your paper while painting, or paint separate elements and then use them for some kind of, I don't know, service patterns or placement illustrations. Now the stems. As I told you, I will maybe use a smaller brush. I will use number 6. And I will add some green color. All I want is to get the impression, and I'm not concentrating on details. We can clearly see that these are cornflowers, not any other flowers. Basically, it's all about getting the right impression. If we want to play a little bit more, we can add different colors on top. It's wet, so the paint will really nice, spread and mix. There you go. Beautiful corn flowers. Now it's time for poppies. And poppies are so fragile, guys. This is so beautiful, but so fragile. I'm so lucky to have these free alive still. So let's try to paint. Here I'm also using hot press paper. I'm layering the water on my paper just to have a shiny paper without any big drops of water. How many petals? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, 4 petals. And now time for red. You can use any kind of red or any kind of other, color. I'm adding the paint just on the edges. As you can see, here is the magic part and it looks so nice. Now I'm grabbing a little bit of orange to mix it with red paint. But here again, it's not a must. You can mix two different reds or some other colors. It's all about loosening up, so remember, and it's all about, experimenting. As you can see, I'm adding a little lines, and now it's time for these black spots. So they are here. Oh, a little buggy. And I think it's also very important to search for characteristic elements while painting loose, florals and other things as well. Okay, so this green in the middle. I will leave it as it is because it has to get dry. And now I will show you how to paint the same flower, maybe from the other angle with a wet and dry technique. Still using round brush number 8. I have very watery paint on my brush, and I'm just sketching the shapes. All right, I'm just sketching, as you can see, some curvy elements. While it's still wet, I'm adding dark points. And this green element. What we can do here, we can always add more saturated paint to emphasize a few parts of our illustration, to give more depth in it. And remember, we want to get the general impression, not a super detailed botanical drawing. As you can see, I'm adding some orange. Too much, so I'm gonna grab it. Another wet and dry attempt. It's really great, to practice painting different kinds of florals from different angles. Fast sketch is enough, because it gives the impression of what flower we are talking about, and basically that's it when it comes to loose flowers. Switch to a tiny brush, I mean number 6. I will add stems to these florals. I'm looking at this one and I'm finding the simplest shape from where I start to build this flower. All right, now fast stem, leaves. These are only lines. Simplifying shapes is also a good idea. And some darker areas serves very well to get the depth and to make the illustration more interesting. That's it. We have our poppies done with a success. Last but not least, beautiful chamomile. The shape of this flower is so typical, and it's, you know, it's 100% floral in a floral. Flower in flower. All right, so this one we will start from observing. We can see round center and some petals. The petals we can consider as lines, and here these tiny little leaves are also lines. Okay, so let's start. I'm gonna grab yellow paint, and I will just make a few yellow circles. And from here it can be tricky because the petals are white, and ooh, how can we paint white petals? So I suggest to take a little bit of dark paint, black or dark brown, and make it very, very watery, and then start adding lines. As you can see, I'm experimenting, and I'm starting from the middle to the sides and the other way back. And I think the better idea is to pull the lines from the center of the floral to emphasize the center, and to add more depth we can put some dark paint on top of our yellow circles. Now, as I have still the paint on my brush, I'm gonna twist my reference florals, and I'm gonna, you know, try to paint them from the side. And again, I will pull from the center to the sides. Okay, as you can see, I'm not worrying if the colors are blending and mixing, because that's all about when it comes to loose painting. And I wanted to get this impression of meadow chamomile. Now I have florals with petals all done. I'm grabbing some green. Maybe you've noticed that I'm not telling you the colors of the paints I'm using. That's because I want you guys to free your head from, you know, picking exact colors, names, because I think it really doesn't matter when it comes to loose painting. We should make it as simple as possible and not even, you know, bother to search for exact shades, because we can also always create new shapes, new colors, if we want to. All right, you can see that I'm I just simplified these little leaves, and these are only lines for me. I'm adding here and there. Still, do not worry if you put some green on a white space, or in the middle of your yellow center, because all we want to have is the general impression of the floral we are painting. Basically, lines, circles, drops, spots can create beautiful illustration for us. And again, I'm adding in a few places some dark elements. There you go. Beautiful chamomile is done. It was quick and easy and really fun. Now it's time for a great bonus section. If you remember that I was talking about showing you all the possibilities. So let's start from this cornflower and a fountain pen. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some ink details to make this illustration even more beautiful. Once again, I'm looking to find some little tiny details which I can simplify and add on my illustration. And here you can see little lines. Let's go. If you would like to use fountain pen, you have to make sure your illustration is completely dry, because it's not a waterproof one. If you will find waterproof, then there is no problem. As you can see, I'm adding just a tiny elements, not everything everywhere. And when I get the general idea, general impression of this flower, I don't even look at it while continuing. Lines can be, chaotic. Not everything should be perfect. Some of these will just mix with each other, and that's totally okay. My tip for you is also to use this fountain pen to fix the illustrations you think are not so great, because you can always draw everything on top of a watercolor spot. It turned out to be, a different illustration with these details. A fountain pen, it's a great idea to add some beautiful details on your loose florals. The second possibility that I want to show you, it's a nib with a classic ink. And let's try this one. It's not waterproof, so make sure this time also your watercolor illustration is completely dry. And here I'm gonna search for the edges of the petals, and I'm gonna put the edges on top of my illustration, so the petals will be very obvious for a viewer. Here again, I'm not trying, to put every line. I'm only concentrating on some of them. Poppy stem, it's very characteristic, so I'm gonna put these characteristic elements in there. And what will be important is the center of the flower, so I'm gonna put this as well. Now the illustration, it looks more detailed, and that's okay because we wanted that effect. It's also a good idea to fix whatever it's not looking how we want to. And voila, first poppy is done. I'm also looking for characteristic elements, I mean lines. Here, the edges of the petals. I'm not, thinking too much. I'm just adding the elements. The only thing to remember is getting the impression. I'm gonna leave this one as it is because I really love it. There you go. The poppy with some ink on top also looks great. And let me show you the third proposition, and the third possibility is color pencils. Here again, it's all about finding the characteristic elements, and for me, when it comes to chamomile, these are little lines on the petals and these really cute liney leaves, let's say. I'm not sure if such a word exists. I'm gonna put some lines around petals. With color pencils, you can still draw even the illustration is a little bit wet, and I prefer to do it when it's completely dry. I'm gonna emphasize the places where the petals are touching each other because I think these are really good to make darker. Okay, and here again, I'm not gonna add the lines everywhere, just in a few places to emphasize the depth of the illustration and to make it dynamic, let's say dynamic in this case, and interesting. There you go. I could also add a few lines here, so the whole illustrations will look more cohesive with all the details made with this color pencil. But basically that's it. Thank you so much for joining my class. I really hope you will find great joy, and just to remind you, you can find me on social media as well. Please remember about sharing your art so I could, give you a shout out on my stories. Why not? With the hashtag Mama Fabrics Inspires. You can also join my group on Facebook. It's called the same, Mama Fabrics Inspires. I hope to see you on socials. Bye bye.